Hello guys, this is Cesar Creates and welcome back to my channel! In today's episode of the Elm Hill City Zoo, we are creating a habitat for the dingoes. And yes, I know what you may think, because last time we created a habitat for the dholes that were added in the new Southeast Asia animal pack. And the dingoes are very similar to the dholes. Obviously, they are both canids, they are both wild dogs, they are even in similar color. But for me, it made sense to make those habitats next to each other. Because first of all, they will use the same shelter. I mean, there's this one building for a shelter and it will be divided into two parts. One part for the dholes and the second one for the dingoes. And secondly, I think that adding two similar species of dogs next to each other that are really similar but live in totally different habitats creates a really nice contrast, because I want to make those habitats very different from each other. And also it is quite educating for the guests to see, the different kinds of the canid species that come from other parts of the world that live in totally different biomes, different habitats in the wild, but yet are very similar to each other and they could adapt to totally different conditions. So yeah, I will be using a lot of parts of the dhole habitat, so in case you haven't seen the video where we've built the dhole habitat, definitely go and check it out. I will put the link down in the description and on the screen, because we'll be coping over some of the things that we created there, and if you want to see it, how we created them basically, just watch this video and you will know everything step by step. So basically only the shells of those habitats will be the same. I mean the barriers, this wall that we have, that is serving as a barrier, and viewing platform or viewing area for the guests. But the habitat itself will be very different. Dholes live mainly in temperate and tropical forests. That's why I wanted to build a very lush and dense habitat for it that looks basically like a forest with a little water feature. The habitat was inspired by a Wuppertal Zoo in Germany, which is also very dense and foresty. But the dingoes, they obviously live in Australia. They were added to the game with an Australian pack, and they live on Australian outbacks, on the deserts, on the Australian steppes, where the climate is totally different. So this habitat will be also totally different. It will be, very deserty with a lot of rocks. It will be very reminiscent of a canyon or something like this. There won't be so many plants in there. So in the end, even though those animals are very similar and the habitats are next to each other, they're totally different, and obviously you will be able to see it as this video progresses. As a dog lover, I am super happy to build another habitat for wild dogs. As I told you before, I have a dog myself. I have a miniature dachshund. Her name is Jackie, and she's the best dog that I could ever wish for. So yeah, I really love dogs, and building habitats for wild dogs in this game is always very satisfying to me. As you can see, I already added barrier for this habitat. This time we are also using this dark green colored metal barrier because, as I told you last time, it really blends together with the foliage when you add some bushes and shrubs behind it. And this is a trick that many zoos use, because thanks to this, the fence isn't so visible it doesn't catch the eye and it blends to the foliage, so the whole habitat looks much more natural. And this is also what we are doing here and definitely will be doing in the future. So as I told you before, I wanted to make this habitat looks like the dingo's natural habitat in Australia to, you know, educate the guests on their origin, their natural environment. Because the dingo is actually a vulnerable species, so educating guests about it is very important. At first, I had a bit of an issue of adding dingoes to this habitat just because, as I told you many times before, we are building the zoo somewhere in Europe in a temperate biome, and actually not many zoos in Europe have the dingoes. There's one zoo in UK that has them, there's one in Denmark, there are I think 2 in Germany, one of them is at Tier Park in Berlin, because in Berlin there are actually 2 zoos, the Berlin Zoo and the Tier Park. And actually there are also dingoes in Poland, in one of the private zoos. It is called Zoo Safari Borysew, and it is located near Łódź. Yeah, that was a little information for my Polish subscribers. So if you are from Poland and you want to see dingoes, you can go there. I actually never been there, but I think that I need to pay a visit to this zoo, because they seem to have very interesting species in there. Yeah, but then I thought that our Elm Hill City Zoo is or will be a very big zoo, a very wealthy zoo, so they can probably afford to have dingoes in here, because the issue with dingoes is that all of them come from the trades, between the zoos, and because of the fact that there are not many of them in Europe, most of them are actually imported from Australia, so that's a long way. And this is because there are not too many of them here, but let's pretend that our zoo has the funds to have them in here. It will be a relatively small herd of them, or a pack of them. There will be only 5 of them. But I'm counting that soon we'll have those very cute small, dingo babies in here. As you can see, I created this habitat to be a little, slopey, like coming down into this ditch, so it creates a really nice viewing for this habitat for guests. So this habitat like goes gradually down to this ditch, and there will be a lot of rocks in here. I already started to work on the rocks, on the all the rock work or the rock formations, because I wanted to give this habitat this canyon feeling, something like this, canyon vibe, just to mimic the natural habitat of the dingoes. And also I have this thought in the back of my mind that I need to make this habitat very different from the Dhole one. So yeah, I wanted to have this contrast between them, and this is basically what I came up with. This habitat isn't inspired by any habitats. I know that I've built a lot of habitats in the zoos that are a bit inspired by the ones that I find online on the zoo chat, basically. But I couldn't find anything like suiting for the dingoes. Most of them, the habitats for them in the zoos around the world are very plain and boring. And if they are not plain and boring, they are located in Australia or in some more of like tropical zoos. So there are a lot of palm trees and, something that we are not like, something that simply won't fit to our zoo. So yeah, I had to come up with something by myself. But I really, really like how it turned out. Of course, you'll be able to see the finished product in the end, in the cinematic shots. And also, when we are talking about cinematic shots, I know you guys had some recommendations about them. So Definitely I will turn off the music in the game when I make them, because you like pointed out that we sometimes have like music that is overlapping, because there is a music from the game and music that I add to the cinematic shots. And also some of you asked for the cinematic shots from above to see the entire zoo, because you want to see the perspective and where we are building. So there will be one shot from above that I will show you the whole zoo, what we've built, so you can pause there and you can see where all the habitats are located right now. Of course, if you have any more recommendations, they're always welcome. Just comment down below and tell me what I should include in my videos or what should I change, because I am still new to this YouTube world. I am not too good in, recording and so on. So I am still learning, and all the tips and all the things that you guys would like to see are very welcome. So as you can see, I decided to mix the desert rocks with tropical rocks and fake rocks from the aquatic pack. I really like this mixture. I mean, there are not too many tropical rocks, just some accents of them, and I think that it looks very, very cool. They really match very well together. I try to match also the color of the aquatic rocks. They are fake rocks, but for this habitat I think that we should consider all the rocks as fake, because simply this color is very unnatural for this biome. So yeah, when we have those desert habitats in zoos around the world, the rocks in this very light color are typically fake. There are those companies that specialize in making those rocks from concrete, from plaster, and so on. So yeah, so let's imagine that those rocks are actually fake, but they look very, very natural. I actually put so many rocks in there that I had to delete some of them in the end, because those dingoes couldn't go down there. I mean, they couldn't use the whole habitat because of their traversable area, so that was a pity, because those small rocks, those piles of small rocks, they seem to be an issue for them. So yeah, their traversable area is a bit crazy for how small they are, but that is how it is, and yeah, I had to make some adjustments. So in the cinematic shots you'll be able to see the finished product with all the rocks that I had to remove from this habitat. It wasn't much, but just be aware that some of the rocks that I'm putting in here will be gone when we are finished with this habitat. Also, when it comes to those aquatic rocks, what I like to do is, to click them and individually, several of them, and change the color very slightly to a different shade, because it right away looks more natural, when they are not all in the same color, especially when they are just next to each other. So yeah, you'll see me doing that definitely during this build. So in the end we'll have several shades of this beige color on those aquatic rocks, and I really like how it has turned out. You guys probably wonder why I didn't decide to add another animal from the new Southeast Asia animal pack to our zoo. It is simply because the rest of those animals, I have some ideas for areas in this zoo. There'll be, for example, area for monkeys and apes, so the proboscis monkeys will be there in this area. I have area planned for big cats, so the clouded leopard will be there. So yeah, they'll be all added for sure, but not in this point. I mean, maybe after the tour, that as I promised you guys, when we will start the season 2 of the Elm Hill City Zoo, we will start to work on one of those areas, and then I will add one of those animals from the new pack. Right now I decided to add the dingoes, and they are from the Australian pack, which is, I think, by far my favorite pack of them all, because of all the construction pieces that I think are my favorite. I use them a lot and I really like them. The animals in this pack are also really cool and really well made. So yeah, I also really like the dingoes because they look very cool. As I told you guys, I am a huge dog lover, so any addition of a dog species to this zoo is like very pleasing to me. In a second, I will start to add the foliage to this habitat. So as I told you, I didn't want to make this habitat too lush. Of course, there will be some bushes and some more plants. But my idea was that there were some, trees, like we have 3 trees or something like this in here, and some bushes that were actually planted here when this habitat was built. But the rest of them are the weeds that grew here by themselves, and they wasn't removed by the keepers. So yeah, they're growing here, and yeah, this is something that I was going for, and I hope that you guys understand it. So while I am adding plants to this habitat, I think that it is a perfect time for our fun facts. So today's fun facts are about the dingoes. We are actually still not sure whether the dingo was ever a domesticated pet or whether they have always been wild creatures. One theory suggests that they were domesticated for a while until they were left to revert back to their wild state. One of the longest structures in the whole world is a fence in southeast Australia, which was built in the 1920s to keep dingoes away from farm animals. This fence has about 8,000 kilometers. Dingoes are actually often kept as pets in Australia, because in some areas of Australia it is legal to own a dingo as a pet. For example, in New South Wales, you don't even need a permit to own one, but in Queensland, on the other hand, it is completely illegal to own a dingo. One of the ways in which dingoes are different to domesticated dogs is the fact that they have flexible wrists, just like humans do. This allows them to maneuver more easily into tricky areas and climb trees with more ease than dogs. Dingoes are also able to turn their heads 180 degrees, which is more than the domesticated dogs that we are used to keeping as pets. This helps them to hunt and look out for prey much easier. Dingoes are much more like wolves than dogs. They don't bark, but instead you'll hear them making those wolf-like howls. The average lifespan of wild dingo is 5 to 10 years, but in captivity they can live as long as 20 years. When the food is plentiful and dingoes end up with more than enough, they'll often bury the leftovers to eat later. Very similar to the wolves, in pack of dingoes there's usually a male and a female who are the strongest and will mate in order to reproduce for entire pack. When the female gives birth, the other animals in the pack will help to raise the young. Unfortunately, the dominant female will usually kill any other puppies which are born into the pack. This is mainly due to the fact that she wants the other females to look after her babies rather than their own. So that is a bit of a cruel side of the animal world. As you could see, besides the foliage. I also added some branches that are, scattered around this habitat just to give it some texture, some more realism. And I actually think and wish that we should have more of those, because basically we would have a lot of, branches and sticks on the ground in those habitats. There is only one nice and realistic one that I used here, basically, and I really like it, but I wish that we had more of those, even smaller ones and bigger ones. I mean, we have this huge log, and then we have like 5 or 4 of those branches, and I wish that we had more. As you can see, I already started to work on a shelter. Outside, the shelter will be identical to the one that we've built for the dolls. I mean, this is the same building, so that's only the other side of it. The interior will be also similar, but not the same. I gave them some of those elevations so they can sleep on those shelves, not only on the ground. They also have this sand pit for playing, for additional toilet when they need to use it, when they're closed in there. And yeah, there's also this like training room. This is used for medical training. They're basically dangerous animals, so they need to, the keepers need to do some training with them, so in case there's some procedure that is required to do, like when some of them are sick or something happens, they are used to all the procedures. This is nothing new for them, so they're not scared or stressed of it. So yeah, I've seen a lot of those, rooms for animals in the zoos, in the habitats, in the shelters. So this is basically one of them. Also, when one of them is sick, I mean the dingoes, or something happens, it can be easily closed down in there. So it has some, it's basically isolated and also has some time to recover. Not be bothered by the other, members of the pack. So yeah, this is basically why this small room is in there. As you could see, I also copied over a background for this habitat. I mean, the bushes that are right beside the fence and some trees. And I just wanted to say that those trees there are just, they are not a permanent solution. They are just used for a background to make it look better right now. But in the future, there will be something more detailed in there for sure. I need to make some terrain variations, some hills, maybe even there will be habitats and or something like this. But yeah, I copied just those plants or those trees to give this some background to those habitats in here, and probably it will get changed in the future. In the next episode, we'll have another habitat that will be located in this area. And basically, after we are done with that habitat, we will have a tour that I'll promise you guys. So be patient, because it will be very soon. We'll visit all the habitats. I will show you all the layouts of the zoo. I will show you how the animals interact in those habitats. Also, I think that this tour will be more not like a guest perspective, but maybe more like a keeper perspective, because we'll also visit all the backstage areas. And yeah, if you want to see it, definitely stay tuned and subscribe to my channel, because you don't want to miss it. Okay guys, this is all that I have for you today. Please enjoy the rest of this speed build and stay till the end, because there'll be some cinematic shots of this entire habitat. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and if you want to see me build more of those realistic zoo habitats. Give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Ring the bell if you want to be notified every time I upload a new video. And comment down below if you like this video, if you have any questions, or if you have simply some recommendations for my videos on how I can improve them in the future. Thank you guys for watching, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys!